Okay. So who has been developing less than a month? Swift less than a month.
Zero, right? Probably around there.
Zero? You guys zero Swift?
Well,
yeah.
Well, we've done Objective-C and self-study some Swift, but we're not very advanced.
Oh, so you're still iOS developers. Anywhere, like, okay, you got iOS Objective-C developers and people with 1 year experience. So that's great, okay. Okay, now my talk is about customizing Swift to fit your development style. And there's my GitHub profile. So what we want to do is change the bird into a Charizard, basically. So, so this is a textbook definition. Extensions add new functionality to existing class, structure, enumeration, protocol type. And this includes the ability to extend types for which you do not have access to the original source code. So this includes, like, if there's an Objective-C class that you don't have an idea, you don't want to write Objective-C, but there's an Objective-C class and like the CocoaPod framework, like let's say AF networking. So you can extend that with Swift extensions without touching the code, so that like you don't have, even if you don't have access to the original source code, if you have access to the headers, you can just extend the headers and just work from there. So this is what, like, kind of to give an idea. And is there anyone who hasn't done any extension work here before? 1, 2, 3, 4, okay. So I'm just gonna show a basic demo of this then. What, like the simplest extension. Okay, this is a UIV controller and I'm gonna delete the comments. So basically like I'm just gonna create an integer. It's 5. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to turn this integer into string, like the base, or to double the basic operation. So I say var double 5. But let's say I don't want to do the double, write double open parentheses and write 5 in it. That's to do that. That's so after I decide to turn this to a double, like let's say. At this point, it's giving me an error. I have to go right here and write a double like this, and it's not over completing. And there we go. So I don't want to do this. What I do is extend the integer class, which is included in the Swift standard library, and I make a computed variable, which is, let's say, double, which is going to return double. So this variable is the same as function double. This variable and this function are the same. If you guys are not familiar with this type of syntax. Okay. So I return, instead of doing this, copy this here, self, because we want to get the value of the integer, and instead of writing that syntax, we just write int. So I decided this needs to be double, so I write double. You see, it's green, which is like our extended code. So now it works. You can easily like extend, like this is the basic, like the most simplest extension you can do. So we just extended the integer, the standard type, to easily turn it to double without doing the parentheses. Okay, so stuff you can do with extensions. You can add computed properties and computed type properties. So this is a computed property, essentially. Computed type properties are a little different. You just use static or class war, depending it's a class or struct. And you can define instant methods and type methods, which are just like, if you do this, it's the same. It's not going to compile, but yep, you can do this. And maybe let's say this. So it's the same thing. And you can provide new initializers. So let's say, does any of you do UI programmatically without storyboards? Okay, come to some. Okay. So something I hate is while we close UI view, and you open, there's that you have to enter a frame, and you write CG rect, which doesn't have to complete for some reason. And you have to manually type it in, and you get this, and you have to write the values in there, and just to show what it does, you just want to bring it out. So in here it's like, this is basically going to print out a red view, square view. There it is. So here, like I don't want to initialize my views like this. I don't want to write frame and CG rect in every view. So here's a better way of doing this, because I want to have my own way of initializing a view. So I extend the UI view class to include an initialization. So any initializer that is not the main initializer, you have to use it at the convenience keyword, and then call init and put in any variable you want. So I will put in x, which is int, y, so width, I'm with W for that, and height. So in convenience initializers, you have to call the main initializers inside it. So add yourself.init. It doesn't have to complete this part. So call the frame, and call the CG rect initializer here. So it's y. So what this does is calls it and passes over there. So instead of this code, I can have RED, and it's here. So it's the same thing, different initializer. Shorten the code a bit. And there you go. So this is a like use case. You would use the extensions to shorten your code or make your development process better. But let's say if you want to use this method and you don't want to mess with your repository, you don't want to mess other people's minds, you could just I could just put this code in everywhere, like I put it in another file. So I just put it on another file, it works. But if I write private extension, this is only going to work in this file and not the other files. So with by making private extensions, if you have like 100 people working on the same app, and you don't want to change the UI view, the UI kit's functionality for the other developers, you just make a private extension in where you're working with, and you're fine. So put this back. So that's the instance method. New initializers define subscripts. Is anyone familiar with subscripts? So subscripts are what's basically an array, like how you get array. This after this braces, this is done with subscripts. So if I want to get like, let's say, I want to get something in a string, and it's actually more like more advanced features. So if I want to use subscripts, it's not common that you create new subscripts. Basically, yeah, you do this. You put your give index and you can access the index elements. So let's say I want to get the character from a string. To get that, I'm like, let's say, if I add this subscript, I could just go like string 0. Gonna print out that. So this is I added a subscript. Looks like an array of string, but I'm accessing string 0 elements. This does whatever you put inside here. Like if you want to get the first element, you cannot get the first element by design in a string in Swift. So that's helpful. Make nested types, like you can put enums and structs and stuff like that in extensions. You can make an existing type conform to a protocol. If you guys are not familiar with protocols, it's like equitable and comparable. These are things you conform to a protocol. Like if string isn't conforming to like UI table view delegate, I can do that in the extension. This is not a good idea. You obviously want to make string conform to UI table delegate, but that's how we can use extensions to make struct conform to protocol. So when to use that? Additional functionality to Swift, like we extended integer int, you can add additional functionality. You should use it to add more functionality to UIKit and foundation frameworks. So anything that is like UI view, CGRect, any like NSURL, whatever those standards frameworks you use to make iPhone or Mac apps, you can use extensions. You should use to like add functionality without messing with other people's code. So if you're using a Cocoa code of someone's framework, and you want to change, you want to add new functionality, you want to add a new button in there. And you don't want to mess up their code, like maybe they updated, they changed it, that place, so you don't want that to happen. You can just add as an extension in your code, and they will work in the same project. I'm going to give you a small example of that. So here's some view. This is a UI button, and on the initializer, it just creates like 100 by 100 square, and colors is blue. And on the click action, it prints out hello. So you want to override that. Let's say that is inside someone's Cocoa Pod, or you're using Carthage or Swift Packs with package manager. Let's extend some view. And first let's add it. So we created this. There, when I press this button, there's going to be hellos printed out, because that's how it's implemented. That's the functionality of this class, printing out hello when you click it. And so we don't want it to print hello, but we can, if you send a pull request to the developer of this code, he's not going to reject your thing. And then we basically want to extend this. So we can just make a new convenience initializer. And just say like also. And here we call self init. First we initialize the thing, and self init is this basically. So after that is this line of code is made. So you see here there's an add target. Just gonna copy this. And let's say I want to put a new action here. New action on when I click it. And func new. And if I'm going too fast or like you have questions, feel free to ask. I'm getting feedback will be helpful. So in here I'm creating out checking if house is true, and we have this target. And instead of this initializer, I'm going to use some view and say house is true. So when I do this, everything's going to stay the same, but it's going to print out my awesome thing too. Hello and my awesome. So, but let's say we don't want to have hello. We can just like move targets. Those are all targets name. It's click. So we write click, and control this is. And I'm going to click here. It's not going to print hello, it's going to print my awesome. So we just change the functionality of some other person's code without putting anything inside of it. We can like easily, it's like we can easily, if it's also true, we make it also false. This is basically nothing changed in their library. So this is a good way to use Swift extensions to add functionality to someone else's code. So another good use case for extensions is breaking down classes into data, functionality, and delegate. So how we do that is, I'm just going to create a new Swift file and create a source. Cocoa touch table view controller. So we should break down data, functionality, and delegates to make the code look cleaner. So this is the delegate here. It's not conforming to the delegate at the moment, I guess. Yeah. So by data would be like var, table, size, width, wash, table, color, and whatever you say, whatever you think, you just separate these by using extension. And so of course if you're overriding stuff, they should be in the class member. See? Okay, that's the data part, that's the functionality part, and if you're adding new delegates, you could just add table. You guys know any delegates in mind to add to table view controller? Okay, so table view. I make an extension to separate like any, so it doesn't conform to delegate at the moment. I have to look here and basically put these inside. But basically we separate data, functionality, and the delegation stuff to make the code more readable by using extensions. It's not helping, like it's not adding new functionality, it's just a way to organize the code. So when not used, do not extend your own classes from another file. You can obviously do that. You can create a class somewhere and extend it in another code, but there's no reason to do that. That only complicates things more. And for going into easy examples, do you guys have any questions about the basic functionality of extensions? So, okay.
So if you have a private extension, does that mean only that file can access these?
Yeah. So in Swift, the private works differently from Objective-C. In Swift, only the file can access if it's private. If it doesn't have anything stated, only the project can access it. If you want other like workspaces, other developers to like access it, you must have public keyword. So if you make it private, basically, it's only accessible in that file you created. So gonna just show like what should I do an example of? I'm just gonna go here. So Easy Swift extensions is a huge repo I created about extensions. So what I did is basically collect every extension that I'm using into one repo, and I did this because there's like stuff that are not very useful for big projects, and usually if you want to make projects really fast, you want to change the language or the framework to fit your own need, and you want to make fast, like you want to code faster. So I created like lots of apps, more than 10 apps, and that are in the store, and a lot more Hackathon and other apps. So what I do is I basically import this library, and I'm faster than every other developer because everything is pre-coded in the extensions. So like anything I need, I don't have to go to Stack Overflow. I just copy paste the code in there, and it works, and it's all intuitive. So here's some. So this part is not easy functions and variables. This is just a standard stuff you would use. These are not extensions. So I'll jump to the extensions. So there's a toggle. Okay, that would make a good example how to toggle. So let's say I want to create a button. So my button, if you're not familiar with programmatic coding, it's like I'm just creating, like instead of storyboard, I'm just creating the views in here, and instead of dropping the IB actions, I can reference actions in the code. So here I create another thing, so I want to add a targets. So what we want is a button that she likes change the text. Let's say my button dot set title hello or let's say true or while and another button just say false. Title. Selected. So here, type, and let me make this. So here, and I call this, and I click it, it's going to bring out this. And when I click the button, I want this to change the title. So I can say if, okay, there it is. I press this, it says, it prints out stuff, it works. So I want this to change the title. So I say if, like my button, which is referenced over here, dot selected. If it's true, I want to say my button is false. Else, say my button is true. So run this and okay, it's toggling. So now, how about I could make this shorter? So I can just write my button dot selected equals so here I'm saying like it make it equal to the opposite element. If anything confuses you, please feel free to tell how it's done. So it's gonna change true to false, it's toggling. But like this is not very readable, it's not very nice. What I want is the boolean that toggles when you call toggle. So I'll just say from toggle, and in there I'm just going to make the same function of the self equals not self. That's basically it. And instead of writing this, we write toggle. And this is given an error saying make it mutating. So structs you have to make mutating if they're going to change their stuff. Okay, so I just called selected.toggle to change it from true to false. And I run it. It works. So like once you make this extensions of bool toggle, you can use it anywhere. You can go to this table view controller we created, and I can just like here I have a bar. It's true, and false. So that's a use case of this. And like in this easy Swift extensions, there's tons of stuff like when you don't have like if the number is even, if it's odd, if it's positive, negative, it has all those built in. Like all those stuff you expect to be built in Swift Foundation or UI Kit, they're in here, the ones that are missing. So there's like this is a more readable for loop in my viewpoint. So there's like I don't want to like you can basically change an int to double by just writing double and opening up parentheses and putting your int in there. But I just like the to double keyword better. So it's more it's very easy to type because you usually do not know you're gonna change it to the like another type until the compiler gives an error. Then you just want to click on that and you just want it to autocomplete what you should change it to. So in here I can change an int to anything. I can change it to float, e.g. float string, just by writing two string. And there's it's same in double. There's subscripts in my strings, and you can like check if a string contains something easily. Check if a string is email. For this, usually if you want to check if a string is email, you either have to think of the logic yourself, build it, or go to Stack Overflow, copy some code, and try to get it to work. In here, it's just implemented in. You just write this email.
That's your question? So
yeah.
Do you keep all your extensions like in one file, so when you make different apps, you can just import that, copy that one file? Is that the best way to do this? Or?
Well, like that's definitely not the best way. So I in the sources in this, there's like for everything I'm extending. So if I'm extending, let's say double, I get double extensions. If I'm extending string, like it's all organized by the class I'm extending. So let's say like double, like int is a fairly easy one.
So you have all your inputs.
So like in here we got if it's even, if it's odd, it's positive, negative. So changing to CG float and other stuff. It's all everything like corresponds to the int is in this file. So I use CocoaPods to import the whole project in my system. But like if you don't want that, you can just come into the repo, steal some whatever you need, and just put it in your project as maybe private extension, or like if there's something you specifically need, you can just use it. You can just copy paste it across the code. I like to use CocoaPods and the whole thing. So in this, basically you're getting a random object from an array. Index, getting the index on objects, like that's like you need to use that a lot. So like there's dictionary and a state, CGRect, UI view controller. So I do a lot of programmatic UI views, so I want to access the top element. I don't want to think about where the X is, where the Y and the height is. I just want to say top, and that's the top of the view. Bottom, that's where it is. And tab bar, navigation bar, standard stuff like these. And you want to like add child view controller like this. I think adding a child view controls like 5 lines of code that no one remembers. And you have like each time I found myself when I want to add a child view controller, I have to Google it, search that piece of code, and or search inside my own code. So what I did is just add this and made it an extension, and it does that. I give it the to-view and the my view controller, and it just works. A lot of UI view stuff here. So like in UI view, you usually have to write UI view dot frame dot size dot height or whatever, and instead of that, I just made it like this is the height view dot h. This is the width. Like I don't want to write 4 other auto-completed code to get there. I just like its views height. It should be accessible and easy, but people might have different preferences, so that's why you can like extend to fit your development style. So a bunch of UI view stuff, text view, label stuff, image view, images. So basic stuff like cropping images and changing image sizes and getting the kilobytes, megabytes of it. UI color stuff, like just making a UI color with red, green, and blue instead of writing whatever syntax that was before this. I don't even remember what it was like. Let's see. White color. So okay, yeah, they added it. Okay, that's good. Oh, but I think it was you give a float from CG float from 0 to 1. So to give a red of 240, you have to write 240 divided by this. So yeah, that's not useful. And font stuff, button stuff, bunch of. I encourage you to check this out. And any questions, or do you guys want examples of how I use these in my apps, or feel free to ask.
How do you make it readable for other people who don't really have the extension?
So, good question. So when I write an extension, it's usually like, let's say the toggle. That's so you want it to be like, you want it to be intuitive, the keyboard. And when I press toggle, like it's green, it's the person who reads this know that it's made by the developer. It's not made by Apple, because Apple's functions, as you see, are blue. So just and clicking on that gets me to toggle. Even if I'm not in the same file, even if I put this in the app delegate, which is a really bad idea. So as long as it compiles, okay, there's a toggle. I don't know what it is. I still don't understand. Oh, now I do understand. So other developers working on the same code, if you make it explicit what the thing does, or maybe write it like a small document on it, like here. So targets. So okay. So toggle. Oh, it says toggle is the boolean. That's helpful. So small stuff like that helps you, other developers, to be able to work with your extensions.
So what do you type that made it say that?
Oh yeah, can we go back to the app delegate?
This, so this three backslashes,
Normal
three normal slashes, and that's documentation. That's different from commenting. So if you do that, like you can write. If I write 2, it's gonna comment, and it's not gonna show here. But if I write 3, if I write 3, it's gonna show me, okay, description covers the boolean. There's like more advanced stuff you can do with that. Like there's an extension that just makes me write long descriptions. Just for the sake of short stuff. Any other questions?
Can we see the installation instructions again? On there.
So it's you just either drag and drop, or do you guys use CocoaPods?
Did you go over it?
Yeah.
So CocoaPod is a dependency manager. If you haven't used it, it's kind of hard to get into for the first time. But after that, like, I'm just gonna show you one of my own projects.
Do you wanna show us like how to install CocoaPods and install VC Store?
I don't wanna show how to install CocoaPods.
And you have to download from
You have to grind and spend an hour to just do that thing. It's really not easy, but after you install it for one time, it's really easy to update. So let's see. Okay, here's one of my apps, and so CocoaPods breaks your library to, like, there's a pods and your own. This is your own code and this is the pods you're using. So I'm using like these frameworks. So Easy Swift extensions is in there, and there are other easy stuff that I created, I use. So what I do is usually have a pre-installed CocoaPod project, and I just write here whatever pod is needed. Then I have an Xcode extension. I press weather.
You just write from terminal.
Yeah, usually you go to terminal, you write CocoaPods update or some command like that. I downloaded an Xcode extension that just has this. You just press install pods or update pods and it works. You don't have to remember the command. And I can show you what the...
Yeah, now CocoaPods have their own Mac app. They just released it on 1.0 after 4 years. Yeah.
4 years.
That makes it easier.
So
Extension is useful, like why should
So this is using Alcatraz and using Xcode extension. So there is a CocoaPods extension someone made, and there's a bunch of extensions I used to. But yeah. I mean, you should use this CocoaPod extension if you want to make it away from the terminal. But the setting it up, if you want to set up, use the Stack Overflow one. How to set up. Okay, yeah, this is much better than every other tutorial in the internet, this post. So it just writes open terminal, do this, do that. Even the CocoaPod's own website or their repo, they can't explain how to install this monstrosity, but this post really does it. So if you get CocoaPods installed, what it does is, like, every time I make an update on this repository or every other frameworks you're using, it's just you just hit CocoaPods updates, you click the button and it's updating all the stuff you're using. Like I'll just do it right now to show. This is usually a command line thing, and it's okay, update pods, it's updating the code stuff, changing stuff in the project. So the problem with using CocoaPods for this framework is usually like, okay, see, it's updated all these if there's a updatable version. The problem is, like, if I want to, I have to import Easy Swift extensions whenever I'm importing UIKit. That's the only problem. It's like I just copy paste the header and just, so I have a UIKit, Swift extension and a logging thing, and I just put those 3 headers in every Swift file I create, and it works. So what you can do is just copy a file you want, like a int extension file from the sources. Then, like, whichever you need, you can just copy. Like let's say I want to do the Z1 one, and I'm just copying this and putting it on our test project. So I just copy here, close it, Z1 is out, so I can just write var number swipe. It's all there. So it's false. Right. It's concrete. True. You get the idea. But you can can basically make it work like this. And if you have a good extension idea or something you use in your project, feel free to send a pull request to the repo. So it has more coverage of useful tools to make it develop faster with less errors. Any other questions? Okay, no. Okay. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would definitely start using this hackathon.
It's definitely something you should use in hackathons because after you learn everything that is inside, it just speeds you up a few times. I went to a company for a job interview. They gave me a 30-minute long project, and people use storyboards, drag and dropping buttons. Then you have to create a lot of buttons in there, and like a calculator with extra functionality. And it normally takes 30 minutes. And I finished it in 50 minutes using this extension and everything I did, and for loops, programmatic UI. And I went, in 15 minutes, I went, okay, I'm done. It is. It's like, are you sure you're done? Are you sure you don't want water or anything? No, I'm done, come check. It's it speeds up a lot.
So yeah, guys, we're thinking about doing a meetup next month about Awesome iOS. I'm gonna present. Awesome iOS is basically an exchange. It's a library that it's like a dictionary that brings to iOS developers anything they can possibly think of. Like I need to build a camera part on my app. There's a camera section, and there's this TG camera view controller. It's a really cool library that it takes really 5 minutes, and implement this awesome view controller with camera, and you cut, there are filters, and this will take days for you to go and do it. Really, you can find anything here from UI to JSON to image to push notifications, and then you have activity indicators, anything really. You guys should check this, and there are also plugins. Our plugin section is really good. And I'm gonna do a presentation on how to make your life easier as an iOS developer to code faster using multiple libraries. And yeah, that's about it.
Which section is my repo in? Which section is Easy Swift?
Oh, is this Swift? I think
It's
you're in utility, but we're creating an extension section soon.
Is this your?
Yes, that's kind of my repo. Yeah, working with this for 2 years now, I believe. And that's my everyday on this repository. That's me.
What's the library at? Can we check it out? No.
Oh yeah. It's Awesome iOS.
It's posted on the meetup page.
Put it on there.
It's not on there, but
Yeah.
That's it.
my repo is on there.
Looks like everything there.
Really, anything. I use this daily for my
Yeah,
programming.
you can just go awesome iOS.
I was wondering that.
Yeah. We've been growing a lot in the past months, and we're almost 9K. Sorry. So yeah, guys, if you want to talk on one of our meetups, let us know. And yeah, let's just hang out.
Yeah. This place is free.
Yeah.